Good morning and welcome back to the next chapter in our science course. We have talked about earth and space science, chemistry and physics, and now we are up to life science. The last two modules are both life science. I split the cells module away from life science in general because there is so much just to talk about with cells. So I made it its own section of the notebook, but it is still part of life science. So if you're following along with me in the student work text, I'm on page 51, actually 52. And if you're following along in the textbook for the course, we are on pages 121 through 123. So we're getting close to the end of this book. And I will tell you just in advance, I did a bad thing this morning. I've had a chocolate Twinkie and a cup of coffee with caffeine. So if my writing is shaky and I'm a little bit hyper, that is going to be why. I will try to tone it down, but I normally don't eat sugar, so I'm getting some cell reactions now as we speak. Okay, let's start off with some terms. I know this is incredibly boring to some people, but it's very, very important. If you're going to be able to understand about cells, you have to understand some of this basic vocabulary. You do not need to memorize this stuff. I just want you to be familiar. So the first thing that we're starting out with is cell membrane. And this is the outer layer of a cell. It is a sort of skin that controls what enters or leaves the cell. So this cell membrane is very, very, very important. It controls what substances are able to enter or leave the cell. And that's very important in regulating the cell's function. So the cell membrane, anytime you see the word membrane, you can think just loosely of skin. It's not exactly the same thing, but it kind of helps you to put it in everyday language. A membrane is like a skin. Okay, a cell wall is a tough outer layer I believe there should be a comma there because we have two adjectives together, of a plant cell. Animals do not have cell walls, and we'll talk about why that is a little bit later. But cell walls are only found in plant cells. And it's this tough outer layer makes the cell rigid and strong so that the plant can stand upright. A chloroplast. And let me sound this one out for you. Chloroplast. A chloroplast is another plant cell structure. It's an organelle, and we'll talk about what that means as well when we get into our diagrams. An organelle found in plant cells you won't find a chloroplast in an animal cell. And here's why. That captures sunlight energy to make food for the plant cell. Or let's just say for the plant. Plants do not get out and hunt food. They don't go to the grocery store. They make their own food in that process called photosynthesis. And the purpose of a chloroplast is to capture sunlight. Now let me remind you of something. I want to go back just a little bit to something we talked about a long time ago. And that is right here on page 36 of your text. Remember, we talked about a process called photosynthesis, where plants are making food. Do you remember what the catalyst is in that reaction? It is sunlight. Remember, we have to have sunlight for this process to occur. And that's why plants need chloroplasts, because the chloroplasts capture that sunlight that they so desperately need. Chromosomes. You have probably heard about chromosomes if you've listened to the news or any kind of health commentary. But let me give you the scientific definition of chromosomes. Chromosomes are linear, which means in a straight line, or they can be circular, in a circle, strands of DNA. And I'll break DNA down for you. That they don't give you the actual spelling of that, so we'll do that in just a minute. It's a very long word. That contains genetic material. So you get part of your chromosomes from your mom and part from your dad. And that's why you have genetic characteristics of both parents. Chromosomes are carrying that DNA that makes you and I who we are. Cytoplasm. And anytime you see cyto, that is a morpheme. Plasm we can also use as a morpheme. So let's go back to our morphemes page and make sure that we have these. We may already have added them from somewhere else. So I don't see cyto or plasm, so let's put those on here. Cyto means cell. Cyto is cell. And plasm, think about some jelly-like substance when you see plasm. So cytoplasm is cell jelly. Cytoplasm, cell jelly. And let me go back to my definitions page. I'm sorry, we've got so many pages, it just takes me a while to get there. So cytoplasm, which loosely translates to cell jelly, is a jelly-like substance. It has the consistency of jelly. Watery Vaseline would be a good way to think of it. That fills a cell and holds organelles. And since this word organelles keeps coming up over and over, let's go ahead and jump ahead to the next page and define that word organelles, because it keeps coming up and we need to define it. Organelles are structures with membranes. Remember, membrane is loosely a skin. That do a job for a cell. Okay. So let's flip on over another page. Let's not do a bacteria. Let's look at an animal cell. This is on page 55 of your student text. And this is a diagram of an animal cell. All of these things that you're seeing listed here are organelles. A lysosome, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, a Golgi apparatus, the rough endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, here's the cytoplasm, that jelly-like stuff, plasma membrane, the mitochondria, cytoskeleton, those are pieces of that cell. And those are, at least most of them are organelles. If you think about the human body, we have a liver, a spleen, kidneys, bladder. Those are organs. Within the cell itself, we call it the organelle. They're little tiny organs, in a way, that work for the cell. This one, the nucleus, is the one that we want to spend a little bit of time talking about. So that's coming up. But these little structures are called the organelles. Okay, back to, let's get one more, and I think I'll stop the video just to not let them run on so long. This is called the endo, and I'm going to sound this one out, endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum. It's a big word. And most textbooks will just refer to it as the ER. So let's see what the ER does. The ER is a system of sacs and tubes that produce protein, your body must have protein to survive, and moves it through the cell. So it produces the protein and moves the protein through the cell. This is a very important organelle within a cell. It's like a little highway where the protein, it's produced, and then it moves along that little highway to different parts of the cell. Okay, I'm going to stop this video just because it's getting a little long, and we'll pick up in just a minute with part 2.